In the name of the Holy Spirit. Okay. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Come,
Holy Spirit, fill our hearts with your faithful, and kindle in us the fire of your love. Send forth your Spirit, and we shall be created, and you shall renew the face of the earth. O God, who by the light of the Holy Spirit instructs the hearts of the faithful, grant that by the same Holy Spirit we may be truly wise and ever rejoice in his consolations. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Father, and the Son, and the Holy
Do
Spirit.
we get to keep these, or do we?
Yes, I'm going to take one back. Thank you. Just because I wanted to mention, so today when we pray this, in particular with study, send forth your Spirit, we shall be created and renewed, right? Enlightened. You then actually instruct our hearts, not just our heads, but get it in here, right? So it's not just a head thing. And this is a little handout from the book. So this is just because you're going to have to give me the book back. Sorry. This is for you guys to maybe able to take notes, circle, bring one to an absent husband. You better get one like Gary had his own. You know what you might want to do is highlight it for Gary, the things you think he particularly needs to know. I think that you could have fun with that.
I highlight everything for him.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe you could use like big underlines, bold. This one right here, Gary, this one. I don't know if any of you do this, but I used to get a lot of elbows when I used to sit next to Chris during the homily. Anybody get one of those? I used to really pay attention when I got the elbow. Okay, everybody good? Ready to go? So let's start back on page 20, which just introduces the second sign, which is study. Last time we covered prayer. And this just gives you a quick intro. And notice the subtitle there, Dynamic Catholics are continuous learners. We're getting CPU, right, all the time. Continuing professional education credits, right? Because you can't stop learning ever. There's so much to learn. And so he starts off with, we only spend about 14 minutes a day. And these are the dynamic Catholics. So you can imagine what the non-dynamic Catholics must be doing. Huh? Probably zero, right? Or near it. And dynamic Catholics see themselves as students or disciples of Jesus and his church. Okay? And then the next paragraph, Jesus doesn't just want followers. He wants disciples. Okay? And to be a disciple now means a Christian disciple means to sit at the feet of Christ to learn. But not just learn, like I said, with our heads, but really learn with our hearts so we become a true disciple. Someone that wouldn't just follow the letter of the law, which is what the Pharisees were probably trying to do too much of, but following the spirit of the law, all right? And following the law in love, not just out of obligation, okay? Mentions a couple things in that bottom of that paragraph. The 7% are keenly interested in learning from Jesus and about Jesus. And a good little question that came up in the Matthew Kelly Rediscover Jesus book was something to the effect of, how well do you think you know Jesus? And the way I looked at that was, well, I could rate myself, but the one thing I do know is this. The more I learn about Jesus, the more I realize I don't know. Does that make sense? You think, hey, I'm making some progress learning about Jesus. I must know more. All you do is realize, wow, there's a lot more. You know? Just one little example is, we've heard the parable of the prodigal son how many times in our lives? And then Henry Nouwen writes a book after Rembrandt paints a painting, and we study it for weeks and weeks and weeks, and people say after the study of the book and the painting, wow, I never knew so much about the prodigal son. That's just one little example. You know, you just start to dig into it a little bit and you realize how big it can be if you go deeper and deeper and deeper. Okay. Last sentence is an important one, though. Last two. More than just a historical figure, Jesus is seen as a friend, a coach, mentor, and most importantly, of course, Savior. And then those dynamic Catholics believe Jesus teaches them in three ways. This comes straight out of Dei Verbum, okay, the first document out of Vatican II, first constitution. Through the scriptures, Word of God, to Christian tradition, okay? That'd be what's handed on from the apostles, what's handed on, the practices of the early church, handed on, the key word. And then the church itself, the magisterium, which serves the deposit of faith, which is both the scripture and the tradition. Okay. Then it gives the examples of different things we might use. Books, Catholic books, maybe even not Catholic books. Doesn't necessarily have to be a Catholic book, right? I mean, you'll see the books on my list, they're not all Catholic, okay? They don't have the imprimatur, the medical ops on that say they're free of heresy. You'll see a lot of those books on my list because they're still Christian, they're very good. We listen to Catholic CDs, we watch DVDs about the faith, we tune into Catholic radio and television, we might go on retreats more than others, we might attend spiritual events and conferences. The key thing is they're hungry to learn more and they're continuous learners. But the second sign is an interesting one, he says, because of those people, they also have a position of humility. If they disagree with the church teaching, they approach it usually this way. Why does the church teach what she teaches? It's unlikely I know better than 2,000 years of the best Catholic theologians and philosophers. And you might throw in there also saints. Okay? What am I missing? What don't I understand? Help me understand. That kind of an approach. From this perspective, they explore what the church teaches to further understand God's way, eager to discover the truth. So we're on a search for truth, recognizing we don't have the fullness of the truth ourselves, so we have to explore and deeply investigate and understand and become more and more, enlightened, right? So when we start off with, I don't agree with the church, and many times maybe we don't, dynamic Catholics have this perspective. Well, why does the church teach this thing I disagree with? What am I missing? Looking at me first, okay? All right. When the 93% disagree, these are the non-dynamic Catholics, they tend to approach it altogether differently. Now, I want you to think of probably someone you know. It could be the person in the mirror, maybe. But maybe it's someone in your family in particular, or a close friend, and maybe they're struggling with the church. Their attitude tends to be, the church is wrong, the church needs to get with the times, the church doesn't understand me, I know better. Now maybe they don't say that last line, the 2,000 years of the best Catholic minds, but they might think they know better. Most striking is that these conclusions are often reached with little more than a surface understanding of what the church teaches and why. Because if they went a little deeper, they may be singing a different tune. But with just a little more than a surface understanding, they draw those conclusions. So, the second sign then is all about continuous learning. The daily discipline, he says, of exploring the way of Jesus and the genius of Catholicism. That's the way it's titled when we get to this chapter. But I love that particular approach because, gosh, there's so many people, including priests, including deacons, including religious, including church leaders, who start in that exact place. What's wrong with the church? Why doesn't the church, get with the times? And they forgot one little part that kind of drives me a little insane, which is, who do they think is the head of the church? And if you ask them, you know what they'll say? Pope Francis. Go higher. Oh, it means Jesus? Uh-huh. Oh. So you're telling us, or me, that you know better than the head of the church, who happens to be Jesus. Well, the human church. Oh. So he's not involved anymore. Oh. They pretty quickly, the backpedaling begins, because they're not going to take Jesus on, but they'll take on the Pope. And they'll especially take on the bishops, etc., etc. Okay? So I always try to say, before you get too full of yourself, remember who you're judging and questioning. Because Jesus is in charge, folks. So before you get too mad about the church, just step back just a second and maybe approach Jesus with those questions. Jesus, what am I missing? What don't I understand? Help me understand. Pray for understanding. as opposed to digging in a position like, okay, it's me and you, Jesus. Who do you think's going to win? I had a funny discussion in a class so many weeks ago where this person was arguing with me vehemently amongst 20 or so people. And she said, well, I guess we just have a difference of opinion. And I said, well, your opinion is your opinion, but the opinion you're disagreeing with isn't mine. You're disagreeing with the church. And oh, by the way, remember who the head of the church is. And it's not the Pope, it's Jesus. So you're disagreeing with Jesus. Well, Deacon, tell me what's wrong with that analysis. Well, I think she kind of stopped, because I think finally, it dawns on people that if you want to really take a strong disagreement with the church, just remember who you're talking to. It happens to be your Savior. Okay? Just kind of frame it that way, because Christ loves you and wants what's best for you. He's not someone you should be against when you're trying to take your position. Okay?
So is it never okay to question, the Pope or the bishops? In matters other than their church, church related?
Oh, no, it's okay to question them all the time, but I think it's the perspective. The question of it would be more, like I said, like more of a, what am I missing? Help me understand. Can you further explain? As opposed to, you're wrong, I understand better kind of position. Because we do that all the time in our families, right? Or with work. We don't go to our boss and say, you have to explain to me why you changed this policy, buddy. That doesn't go over very well, does it? Instead of, I've read the new policy and I'm trying to understand, could you help me? And that comes out completely differently. And so I think our approach has to be one of humility, not prideful, I must be right, show me how I'm not. Make sense? Because it looks like you're wrong to me. That's where we kind of start sometimes, okay? Does that make sense? So we guys should be real careful just to begin in the right place, I think. And then, quite frankly, we won't be humbled. We won't be humbled. We'll actually be humble. Okay? Those are your two choices.
I like Rose.
Okay? And I'd rather walk out saying, I think I started in the right place today, than, boy, I got my tail between my legs walking out of the office today, getting explained why I thought I was right. So I just like to, I think it's very important to think of it as a learning experience as opposed to a teaching experience, right? And we have a difference. Okay. All right. So with that, let's jump back to chapter 3, the genius of Catholicism. And this is, of course, my passion, which is why I'm standing here probably, as opposed to somebody else, is study. Because, golly, there's so much to learn, and the more I learn, like I said, the more I realize I don't know. So I'm hungry all the time trying to learn. Right? So the first thing he talks about is our worldview.
What page is that?
70, go to 76 and 77, you'll find it faster.
Thank you.
And then just drop back one page and you'll be on 75. Okay, you got chapter 3, the genius of Catholicism. Okay, so where he starts off, now go back to page 76 anyway, and he's talking about each person's worldview, and he essentially says we all have one. And in that first full paragraph, when it starts with a simple sketch, the second line says, our worldview constantly needs challenging. Because our worldview is made up of a million thoughts and ideas and beliefs and prejudices, and it's unique to us. And it's largely formed by our past experiences and education. And because of that, it has some blind spots and is imperfect. And sometimes these causes problems. In the last line, that's why God is constantly challenging our worldview, and Jesus challenged the worldview of every person he encountered. Now look at the list he's got there. Zacchaeus, the woman at the well, the woman caught in adultery and her accusers, Pontius Pilate, Herod, the chief priests, the rich young man, Lazarus, the disciples, and so on and so on and so on. So he came, among other things, to bring us to a new world view. And then he says the next line, For many years I've been speaking out the genius of Catholicism, which he sees as a comprehensive and coherent worldview that starts with a vision for the human person. Now, he really contrasts this idea of a worldview of the church, which he says starts with a vision for the human person, as opposed to what the world's worldview is, okay? And if you go to page, get back there. Yeah. 81, he'll explain to you what today's culture has in store for us, okay? So in the first paragraph there, he starts with, this is what sets the Catholic vision apart from the present culture. So here's the questions. What is the present culture's vision for the human person? When you ask the question, the silence is deafening. Today's culture doesn't have a vision for the human person. Instead, what is the culture driven by? And he answers it in one word: consumption. Or you could call it consumerism, if you want to use that word, okay? The goal of today's culture is consumption. And then he asks some questions and says some things. When was the last time you saw someone being interviewed just because it was a good person, with unusual degree of wisdom, but had nothing to sell? It's very rare. Almost every person being interviewed is selling something. And then it goes on to say in the last few lines, in fact, the culture would prefer that every family be broken. Why? Because a broken family needs two of everything. That drives consumption. I mean, you don't want a family size that averages 6 when you can have 2 families that average 3, or 3 families that average 2, or 4 families that average 1s and 2s, right? Why not just have more and more families? Because then what can we do? We get to sell more housing, we get to sell more of the things that go inside the house, more cars, more everything, right? So why would the culture promote large families to stay together? It's driven by consumption, okay? So, he has some interesting lines in that next paragraph. He says, too few realize, the third line in, too few realize that while it's true we still live in a consumer society, we are no longer the consumer. We are being consumed. Wow. Okay? Another way of saying that, but I like the way Stephen Covey said, instead of you living your life is being lived. The culture's telling you, you're not deciding in a sense. The culture's telling you, this is the way you live your life. You're being lived. So every family has to, boom, 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 right? So my gosh, if your children haven't gone to Disney World, well then they have missed out, they're ruined for life. If they hadn't been able to play all these sports and gone and played an instrument and done gymnastics and then you're a bad parent. I mean, the culture tells us these things all the time, don't they? That the expectations are that your child will experience everything there is in the world, and if not, well, then all their deficiencies are because you really just didn't measure up as a parent, because you didn't expose them to everything. If they weren't the best student, then you didn't send them to the right school, or you didn't tutor them enough, or whatever. It's one thing after the other, right? Yeah. But that's kind of what the culture can say sometimes, right? So this idea, though, of us being consumed, we're kind of victims, in a sense, of a culture that drives us toward this consumption. That make sense? Do you feel that way sometimes? You know, you like, I was watching this thing the other day, that they had the tub for the elderly people, so they won't fall. And it says you can save $1,500 on this tub. Well, what is this tub you think going to cost if they're going to save $1,500? It's just a tub. So it's probably like $10,000 or more for this tub, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? This tub will change your life. That's what it says. It will change your life. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think a tub is going to do it for me. Now, it might prevent me from falling, and I'll buy that part of it. But I mean, how many things do we see that if you do this thing, if you eat Skittles or something, I mean, they make these outrageous claims, you know. If you drive this car, you'll get the beautiful girl. If you play this instrument, it's one thing after the other that they try to sell with the way, we all know that, okay? But the idea is that they drive you to consume. The culture just drives you. So he wants to make that point that the genius of Catholicism then doesn't focus on that, instead it focuses on the development of the human person. So how does he describe that? In the second full paragraph on 77, going back there, he says it's a very simple idea. And he says you can describe it two ways. You can call it the call to holiness, or Matthew Kelly's preference is becoming the best version of yourself. Okay? But the way he says it on that second paragraph on 77 is God calls you to holiness, and then everything that happens in your life, regardless of whether it seems to be a good thing or a not so good thing, triumphs and trials and tragedies, can be an opportunity to grow in holiness. You can grow in virtue and character and become more perfectly who God created you to be, develop a closer relationship with God. So we have all these opportunities. And what's interesting is he says, as these opportunities come along, to ask the questions we should be asking ourselves. Okay? So if you go to the bottom of 78, he says some of these questions. He asks, well, what makes a good friend? Well, someone who helps you become a better version or the best version of yourself. Have you ever been around friends that make you the worst version of yourself? We all can kind of nod and go, yeah. When I'm around that guy or that girl, I tend to be like the worst. You know? What does that say about that situation, right? What makes a good meal? Because even food can make you the best version of yourself. Have you ever had a lousy meal and not been real happy, and maybe you got a little crabby, and maybe you got tired and angry and things like that? Those that inspire you, okay, what makes a good book or a movie or music? Those that can inspire you to become the best version of yourself. Well, that's the truth, huh? Maybe for someone it's a piece of music or a movie that they really got a lot out of, or a book. Next one, what's the meaning and purpose of marriage? Husband and wife coming together, challenging and encouraging each other to become the best version of themselves, and then raising children and teaching them to become the best version of themselves, or best version, okay? And then work too, to become, a better version. So he's constantly saying, we have all these opportunities, other people, entertainment, literature, art, all sorts of things that can help us become a better version of ourselves. Now, where he does something important, though, is at the bottom of 77. We can jump back there for just a second. Where he says, with regard to Catholicism, he said, Tim had revealed 4 lines down, the true meaning and purpose of life. And it happened in a way, he says, that allowed me, this is Matthew Kelly talking, allowed him to see the connection between the individual events of his daily life and what God was inviting him to through the church. This is a vital connection that the church is failing to make for too many people. Or another way of saying it is, it's the vital connection that people fail to make. Okay? It's crucial we make the connection between ordinary activities of life and the dream God has for each person if we want to generally engage people. So here's the difference, right? Put real simply, is you can learn about something, right? And that's knowledge. But what about when you learn through experience? The actual engaging of the particular thing. Yes, you have a question?
I got words.
Okay, well, that wasn't the question. Okay. But you get the idea, we can engage in the activity, or we can read about it and really be engaged. And that's what Matthew Kelly says happens at Mass. You remember when he talked to us, he said, are you engaged or are you just present? Are you involved, experiencing, right? Actively participating, or are you just sort of there? And so I think that's a real critical difference is, can we connect well, our lives with the experience of God? Or are they just like separate? So, as I've said a couple times lately, if you're gonna grow in love for God, the love grows in the knowing, okay? So if you, the more and more you come to know God, the more and more you love God. Well, someone says, well, my heart's just been on fire with love of God. Well, how well do you know God? Do they know God, or do they know about God? Do they have a personal relationship with God, or do they have a very distant relationship with God? And how do you develop a relationship with somebody? So here's a little story I told a couple times already. Excuse me. But this is from Father Larry Richards. So here's your choices. You're getting married, and you kind of trying to figure out each other's schedule, and you say to your spouse, I'll pretend I'm Gary. Tell me your first name so I don't mess it up.
Bernie,
Bernie.
Bernadette.
Bernadette. I love you, Bernadette. And I really want to get to know you.
He tells me that all the time.
So here's what we're going to do. I looked at my schedule, and what I've decided is I think it would be best if I spend between 45 minutes and an hour with you every Sunday morning for the rest of my life. Get to know you. All right? That sound good? And by the way, just a little sidelight, if the priest isn't real good, I may not show up. Just start to develop a connection. Because that's what we can do with God. I'll see you once a week, God, 45 minutes from now. How long are you going to put up with Gary spending 45 minutes to an hour once a week for the rest of your life, if the priest is good? How well will he get to know you? I mean, you see the point right away, right? And yet we can do that with God so quickly, right? It's like we're putting our time in, not with the desire to grow in a relationship, right? And then when people, after years and years and years, say, I just don't have a personal relationship with God. Well, how much time do you spend with Him? Oh, I go to Mass on Sunday. Every Sunday? Most Sundays. Okay. And then you see what I mean? It becomes pretty evident. So the key there is that if we treated people in our lives, this is going to be hard to hear, like we spend time with God, we wouldn't love them very much. So how can we expect to love God if we don't spend time with Him? That was a very powerful teaching from Father Larry. It really made me think. So the love grows in the knowing, so we've got to spend time with God so we come to know Him and then love Him. And the more we love Him, the more we want to know Him. It just keeps going and going, which is a wonderful thing. Okay? So that's the connection. We've got to be able to connect the way we live our lives. Okay? All right.
What happens when you get to know somebody really, really well, and then you find out you really don't like them?
That does.
Now, I know Ruth has talked to me about this before, so
Yes,
I
I
don't feel
know.
like I should divulge
I'm
this
sure.
in front of everybody.
I'm sure. I'm just throwing that out at you.
But that's true, it does happen.
Well, and isn't it true? I mean, remember that day you were married and you had this vision of the perfect mate? And how long did that last?
2 days.
2 days. That's on tape, Gary. 2 days. Just kidding. But you get that was Bernadette, by the way. I just want to show you. Anyway, but the point is that, yeah, I mean, isn't that the truth? That we have sort of maybe an image of the Prince Charming, right? Or Snow White, or whoever we think we're marrying, and it's perfect, you know. Or this friend that we just met, or the priest that we just met at the parish, right? We have all these images of these people, and then we find out, the more we know them, what do we find out? They're not so hot. But isn't that the way it is with everybody? If they fully knew you, wouldn't you go, ooh, they'd find out about, you can make the list of the things they don't know about you in your head, that if they knew you, then you'd have to say, would they still be my wife, or my husband, or my friend, or whatever? And I think the answer would be absolutely yes, they would be, because what happens when people find out things about you, even the things they don't like, they end up loving you more because they come to know you more fully. It's hard for us to believe. Now, if they find out that you've been a complete fraud, they may not, right? I mean, if you sold yourself as all these things and then it turned out that you were 180 degrees opposite all those things, that's different. But I'm just talking about a person that loves you and then you begin to reveal, well, by the way, and they find a little dirty laundry here and there, but they'll love you more for it. Why? Because you told them the truth, because you trusted them, because you opened up yourself to them. Now, maybe not at first. Maybe they're a little hurt. Maybe their image of you has been tarnished a little bit, right? But over time, they'll appreciate the knowing. I think it's hard for us to believe sometimes.
Well, let me give the lie to that, and that's that
Yeah.
no matter how much you learn about God and Jesus, that you just learn more good things about him. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing bad to learn.
There's nothing bad to learn. Yeah. Yeah. But they fully know you, and they still love you unconditionally. And so the challenge we have as Christians is to be Christ to each other. So to accept and love the other person, even though they aren't perfect. Because, after all, I am. Isn't it funny how we want to be loved?
Isn't that like coming
Right.
to learn to love others as God loves us
Yeah.
unconditionally?
Absolutely. I think that's the truth. And then we want to be loved, but then we want to somehow say, well, I want them to love me for who I am, but I want to love them for the image that I love of them. And as soon as that image gets a little tarnished, ooh. You know. So we have to always kind of keep that in mind, is we have to accept some things about them so that they accept things about us. That's how Jesus fully loved, unconditionally. Yeah, I think we have to push on that.
When I strive when I have tried to be a better version of myself,
Mhm.
I have found I was trying to please too many people,
Mm-hmm.
and I was losing sight of really who I was to begin with.
Right.
And so
Right.
pleasing people isn't the answer.
It's not.
I mean,
You're absolutely right.
if my natural lovability, isn't enough for you all,
Well, it's enough for Meryl. We know that. 'Cause Meryl loves you. We know that. We're not sure about anybody else, but we know Meryl loves
Yes,
I,
no matter what.
I have tried, to please others,
Yeah.
and
They're
they
not
throw
Marilyn.
it back, they throw it back in my face.
you. Absolutely.
Well, you see, now that upsets me, and then I lose my vision of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I live by his best commandment, love one another as I have loved you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, pleasing other people is not my goal. I mean, I want to be a good person, I
Mhm.
want to get along, and I don't want to hurt anybody
Sure.
deliberately, because I think I'm a courteous,
Mm-hmm.
considerate person in my dealing with people, and I want to be treated that same way.
Sure.
And when they don't, well, I want to punch them out.
Yeah, I've seen you take a couple people down.
But,
I know what you mean.
I don't think
Yeah.
pleasing people isn't, to me, is not my goal. I want to have
Yeah.
friends, but
Sure.
if they don't like me,
Yeah.
that's it. I know Julie
Yeah.
likes me. I love Julie. I married Ellen. It is.
Yeah, you're right there. She doesn't
now.
know
Yeah.
I'm learning.
She knows she better be your friend or she's gonna deck her.
The way I look at it is I love Jesus.
Mhm.
And I try to love
Number
Jesus with
one,
a
yeah.
pure heart.
Okay.
And Jesus gives his love to me.
Mhm.
Jesus just constantly gives love.
Right.
And I share that love with other people. If
Right.
they don't want to accept it, I am not offended by other people's thoughts of me. Because in the end, it's all about you and God.
Mhm.
And I just keep getting love from Jesus. I don't empty myself to other people and then have nothing and I'm hurt. I just share what Jesus gives me to other people. And if they share and rejoice in that love, that's wonderful. If they don't and they do something offensive to me, I don't take anything personally, and I just say, God bless them, instead of their bad behavior and saying something against it. I don't do that because, of course that would be sinning, but you're just feeding the fire.
Yeah.
So if somebody does something bad, I try not to think bad thoughts. I go to Jesus right away and just say, God bless you. And, if there's something very bad, or, if there's, demons or something like that, or something, they will get tired of you blessing people and leave you alone. If you bless them enough, if you just keep saying God bless to people, I mean, that's just the way I look at it. So I don't feel I'm ever being emptied. I feel I'm full, and I put God in everything I do all day long, constantly.
Let me give you one little idea that might change your perspective on one point you made.
Okay.
When you talk about loving God, and that's what matters, that's not what God said. What Jesus said is two things. First commandment, love God, and the second one, which is equal to the first, is love your neighbor as yourself. So to God, it's as important for us to love our neighbor as it is to love him. Now, remember that, I think it was maybe St. James, but I'm going to mess him up because I'm a good Catholic. Somewhere in the Bible it says, right? How can you love the God you can't see if you don't love the people you can see? Remember that phrase in there? So we really need to evidence our love for God by how we love our neighbor. Now, the word love is the key, okay? So we're called to love God and neighbor, right? Okay, so I think we'll all buy that. Now let me just finish that thought. So the word love itself, I think, is problematic. St. Thomas Aquinas, my favorite definition of love is willing the good of the other as other, which is different, Dorothy, than what you said, which is pleasing people. Because I can will somebody's good and certainly not please them.